Let's roll. Okay, awesome. You guys, thanks for being here.
Yeah, we had to reschedule because we double booked. So sorry about that. Thanks for.
Yeah, thank you so much for the kindness.
He booked something. I booked something.
Like,
turns out our calendars weren't.
Our calendars aren't coordinated awesomely yet, and like I'm literally getting requests all the time now to speak and present. I'm getting interviewed, and so we're trying to. It's this awesome thing of coordinating now, and in fact, I just did an interview this morning from this lady she's in Singapore right now. French Canadian lady in Singapore, and it's all about world schooling, home education, global home education.
Global homeschooling.
Yeah. So it was a blast. Had a good time with that.
Yeah, so that'll be something to look out for because she's doing a whole global homeschooling summit that I think is coming out in June.
In June, yep. In June. So watch out for that.
So she's interviewing all the people now, so that'll be out. Then that'll be cool.
I just got interviewed on the Family Culture podcast. So that'll be coming out in a couple weeks here. That was really fun. And then you guys talk about crazy stress. I don't know if you guys like to present, if any of you like presenting or speaking, or if it causes you stress. If you're like most human beings, the number one fear is public speaking. Number two is death. And so like people are afraid to speak. But Rachel and I are flying out day after tomorrow.
Saturday
We're
morning.
flying out soon. I'm going to on a trip to DC. I'm speaking 6 times. 6 times. And like, I don't know if you guys can wrap your minds around the pressure of presenting 6 times with different material.
Well, it's hours and hours of preparation.
Whoa,
challenge.
man,
so
it's just a
I'm
load.
trying to fit that in right now.
Yeah. So it's fun. I love it. I love it. It makes me feel alive. All right, bring it on. Bring on the pressure. Love this stuff. So we got good stuff going. But before we get rolling into the training, I wanted to share something that's been on my mind. I just love you guys. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I know sometimes you can feel so overwhelmed and inadequate. And sometimes you wonder if you're just failing at everything. And that's probably just me. I'm probably the only one that's ever experienced that. But if any of you ever do have that experience where you just feel like you're totally inadequate, like you're sitting there wondering, how is it that God ever gave me kids? Like, he must be crazy. And you just feel inadequate. Like, please know, like with all my heart, please know that we are cheering for you and you got this. You're awesome. It is a daunting, sometimes thankless task to work so hard to try to raise little people. And then they have this gift to destroy your house in under 4 minutes. And you're like, how can this be? I couldn't make that big of a mess that fast if I tried. And they're the cutest little terrors. And we're just trying so hard to help things go right.
Or then they're big terrors.
And then they get big and then they still make messes. And now they eat ridiculous amounts of food. So Jess, watch out. When your boys get bigger, oh man, they're going to put away, your fridge will be empty at 10 while you're still unloading groceries from the car. It'll all be consumed and gone. Oh man, it's fun.
It's a fun wild ride.
It's a fun wild ride, and it's kind of cool right now, you guys. It's really fascinating. So our boys are at this wilderness camp right now. They're out doing like rock climbing and rappelling and ascending, all kinds of wilderness, crazy cool stuff. The two of them are together, and then our daughter Kaya is on a solo trip in Guatemala. And
not just on a solo trip, she's actually babysitting 3 kids?
Yeah. So our friends are living in Guatemala and they wanted to take a trip as a couple to Peru. So they messaged Kaya and they're like, hey, will you fly to Guatemala and watch our kids while we go to Peru? And she's like, yes, of course. So now she's international right now. And she called Rachel. She says, I feel like a single mom.
I have no personal space or time. I can't even sleep in a bed by myself. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, girl.
I feel your pain.
She's learning some awesome lessons right now, and we're excited about it. We love it. So it's fun. So we only have 4 kids right now.
I know.
Like, this is so easy with
actually,
4.
It's not.
Okay, it's
harder,
not.
I think, because all our chore doers.
Oh,
are gone.
that's true. Yeah, I just
Usually
overlook all the chores, but Rachel does it.
Yeah. Usually Kaya's doing all the cooking, and Kimball does all the laundry.
That's true. We
and
haven't had
Parker
any
does all
clothes.
the cleaning. And I'm going to get clothes out for the girls. I'm like,
And
there's
there
no
are
clothes.
none.
The laundry.
I
Who's
love it.
doing the laundry? Nobody.
So fun, wild ride. Okay, you guys, you're the best. Thanks for being here. Anytime during this, if you have questions or comments, I want this to be more and more interactive. Love learning from you, and we can all learn from each other. So let's let this be interactive. In fact, if you have any questions at all, if you come in with questions or concerns or like, hey, what about this? What about that? Go ahead and throw them in right now.
In fact, we've realized that Greg gives his best stuff when people ask great questions. So good questions are good.
Otherwise, I'm just shooting from the hip, but like, hope this lands somewhere. Now, usually, like I get questions all the time now. It's fun, you guys. I literally get questions every single day, and it's good stuff. I had 2 personal coaching meetings yesterday, and let's just say both of them were heartbreaking. Just heartbreaking. We're facing some hard stuff. And so if you're in a spot where you're facing some trials and challenges and life is crazy hard right now, we've been there, and we get our fair share of challenges too, and it's tough. So keep your head up, keep asking questions. If I can help any way, I'm happy to. And we're here to help and support you guys in this awesome journey of life. All right, ready? Excited? Oh, good. A question. Thank you. I love it. Oh, we were just sitting here hoping for questions. Yay. Let's see. How do you regroup after you realize the task is impossible and you are inadequate as it stands? Oh, that's the story of my life. And then second, how do you recover from burnout? Whoa. Okay.
Good question.
Super duper cool.
What do you do when your hopes and dreams come crashing down around you? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. Hold on. So can I share this? I'm going to do it. I know what I wrote, but I wrote this just the other day. I'm literally going to read from my notes to you so you know that this has been on my mind. Oh, except wait a minute. Now I have to find it in my notes. You guys, I have over 800 notes on my iPhone. Because every time I have a cool idea or experience, I write down the notes. Oh, man.
Wow, this is
the anticipation. Yes. Oh, you ready? Okay. I just pulled up my notes. I want you to know that this came to me a few nights ago. So it's just for you. Most things in life that feel impossible are actually just really hard. And we can do them if we are deliberate, determined, and disciplined. Whoa. Like, let that sink in, right? How many feel like you're just frequently facing impossible things? Yeah. All right. I'm not the only one. Woo! Because I'm like, please raise your hand, somebody. Because I feel that all the time, like it's just this constant flow. And especially, have you found that the more you pursue goals, the more often that happens? You feel like we can all just sit back and be like, just let life happen to us. Then every once in a while you face something impossible. But if you're driven, you're ambitious, you're hungry, you're trying something, then all of a sudden, for me, I feel like this is a weekly occurrence of like impossible. You're like, this is ridiculous, right? Rachel's got a book. You guys better watch out. It's coming. Ooh, the resistance, the résistance. Okay, all right. So Rachel and I, we've
been facing some
resistance. Books overpower our lives, and we want it that way. We have books. Every room in this house has books, and we, as we're falling asleep at night, I've been reading this book. It's a short book. It's a powerful book, and there was a section on resistance.
Well, because like you were just saying, like sometimes it feels like the more you pursue goals, the more impossible it becomes, right? The more impossible it seems, the more challenges you might have.
And the temptation is there, and let me know if you've ever done this. The temptation is when the resistance picks up, you really start saying to yourself, maybe I'm not cut out for this.
Or maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do.
Maybe this is wrong. I should just stop. This is ridiculous. Like it's too much, right?
You actually read it.
All right.
Today,
This is
so
so
I'm
good.
just getting it.
The book's called Do the Work by Steven Pressfield. Okay, short book. He said, rule of thumb, the more important a call or action is to the soul's evolution. Like he's talking about, like, this is things you know you have to do. It's in your soul. You're like, this is so important for me and for my family. He says, the more resistance we will feel toward pursuing it. So he says, he's actually saying the more aligned it is for your soul's evolution, basically for the growth of you as a being and your family, he says, the more resistance you're going to experience. But he says, careful now, resistance doesn't care about you. It doesn't know you. It doesn't give a, he uses some other words. It nothing. Like, it has nothing to do with you. It's not a personal thing. It's just a law. The more you pursue greatness and your unique path, the more resistance you're going to experience. And he says, because of that resistance, you can know you're on the right path. Have a nice day.
Well,
it's not a happy thought.
And here's the thing. The reason why is because ultimately what it's about is who you're becoming. Like for most of us, we're always thinking, well, I just want this thing. I want this outcome. You know, I'm trying to achieve this outcome, whether it's a certain amount of money or, you know, you want to take a trip or you want to get a house or whatever it is, whatever the outcome is, you're like, I just want that. But it's not about that. Like what it's about is who you become, the person you develop into from here to there. That's really what it's about. And again, like I've talked about with vision boards and all of that, like it's not about the thing you're trying to get. It's about who you're becoming in the process. And unfortunately, that process of becoming requires a lot of resistance and sometimes some tears and sometimes some major emotional pain, because like that helps you grow. It's like the refiner's fire type idea of, you know, you have to have all of that, the negative things burned out of you. One of our mentors, you know, talked about it this way, in that when you are working on becoming your best self, what happens is all that stuff that's been buried inside, like all of the negative thoughts and feelings and emotions and defeating beliefs and limiting beliefs within us, like they start to come to the surface. And you're like, this is really uncomfortable and unpleasant and ugly. But that's the point. They have to come to the surface and they have to come out and they have to be released from us. And that's only going to happen by going through this process that's not pleasant. We know because we're going through this again right now. Right, hon?
Oh, yeah, baby. But here's what's interesting, you guys, is there's this wall between us and what we want. And most people, when they hit the wall, they'll cycle back to what they know. So instead of figuring out a way to get through the wall, over the wall, around the wall, crush the wall, they hit the wall and then they cycle back to what they know and and then they stay in the same perpetual cycle.
Yeah, because we hit the wall and we're like, oh,
there's resistance.
I guess I'm not supposed to have that or do that or be that.
And so we acquiesce. And we fall short. And again, like Eve, you just nail it, because like you hit something that's impossible and you feel inadequate as it stands. And this is the beauty of it. Okay. And I know you guys, this is like this humble pill that none of us wants to swallow, but the truth is we are inadequate. Like I'm facing my inadequacies every day, and it's humiliating and frustrating. But that's also the beauty of it, is because we want to be setting goals that require us to be, that we can't achieve at the moment. Like I like to set goals that are so big that I know I cannot achieve them right now as I am, that I literally have to grow and become a better man before I can reach those goals. Does that make sense? Like as I currently am, I won't be able to reach the goal because it's so big.
Yeah. If you set goals that you knew you could achieve, then there's no growth in that. There's no growth. So
Sorry.
yeah, you have to set goals that you are inadequate to achieve.
Sorry, guys. We like to preach the hard stuff here.
So can I jump in?
Of course.
I was going to post this, but my life has been so crazy that I haven't. So have all these goals, emotional mastery, working on relationships with my kids. And I had some good days and I'm like, yes, we're getting it. And then really hard days. And I was laying there in bed and I was kind of complaining to God, like, I am never getting this. This is so hard. And he flashed some scenes that I've had earlier in the day with my kids, them hugging me and saying, I love you, Mom, and them coming to me and wanting to talk. And I just had all of these things of how things have. I've gotten up the first hump, but I've hit the second wall. And it was just like, he said, this is the next wall. But I realized I'd actually made progress and I'd gotten up above, but it felt like I was backsliding again. But he showed me some of the ways that we have improved and we have changed. But it was really hard in the moment to see that we had grown and things had improved. It was just that next hurdle that I wasn't getting over and I was complaining about it.
Oh, man, Miriam, thank you so much for sharing that. I think you just articulated what we all have to remember when we experience that. Because you're right. You make this climb, right? And then you hit the next wall and you're like, geez, haven't I done anything? And
hasn't it been enough?
Right.
That's what I always feel.
Like,
Hasn't
come
it been
on.
enough? Like, haven't I made enough growth and progress?
But what's beautiful, if I can share this, is that second wall feels like the first one, but it's not the first one. It's the next one. And I'm so grateful you had that experience. You shared that with us of like, you're laying there in bed going, I'm back at the wall. And God's like, no, it's a different wall. You've made progress. Like, celebrate the successes, you guys. Celebrate the successes. We do the same thing. We go that same journey. You're like, is this sinking in? Because I think I've said this to my kids 10,000 times.
Or I think I've said this to myself 10,000 times. Even like, have I made any progress at all? But I like what you're saying, celebrate the successes. But I think also on the other hand, the other side, again, like this is my mantra, the two sides of the coin, right? Is to feel the pain. Like I honestly feel it's important to feel the pain. And when you have the pain, like experience it, go through it and acknowledge, yeah, I'm not good enough. Yeah, I made the mistakes. Like you have to go through it. Now, you obviously don't want to dwell there. That's not where you want to stay. But I think it's an important part of the journey of feeling it. Like this is where I am and it sucks. But it's reality right now. And then from there, that's when you can receive the inspiration of the next step. And sometimes that's all it is just one little teeny next step.
Where there's pain, there's power, my friends. Where there's pain, there is power. And it's not always pleasant, but wow. It's awesome. Love that. Woo! Okay, just one last thought here. Resistance will tell you anything to keep you from doing your work. It will perjure you, fabricate, falsify, seduce, bully, and cajole you. And then he says, but remember, though it feels malevolent, like it feels like it's some kind of evil attack against you personally, he says,
malevolent?
Yeah, malevolent.
Oh,
Resistance in fact operates with total indifference of rain and transits the heaven by the same laws as the stars. It's
the same indifference as rain.
Yeah, it's like it's indifferent. There's just going to be resistance.
In the scriptures, in the Bible, there's something about the rain falls on the just and the unjust. Yep. Resistance is just like that. It's just going to come.
It's coming. So
although in some ways, I think maybe it's not totally indifferent because it seems to come more
the more you pursue greatness. Yeah, you can try to avoid it, but it's there. Okay, so the original question was, if you're facing something that's impossible and you feel inadequate, so we hit that, and you're inadequate as it currently stands, like how do you recover from the burnout? How do you recover from that situation?
Well, and for me, I have to recover from the negativity. Because I kind of wrote about it in an email. Like, it's like this negativity starts snowballing. Like, it starts out as this teeny little, maybe it starts as like an irritation or some just small negative thought sometimes. But then like, it's like it'll start to grow like a snowball. It keeps rolling around and around and around. And it like gets bigger and bigger and bigger until literally it's like this giant boulder of negativity, and like it's all you can see.
And you're laying on your face in bed saying, I'm a despicable human being.
Right. It's for real, right? And again, while there's like I said, there's value in feeling that pain, because again, we need some of that humility to help us remember we're not all that in a bag of chips, you know. We need some of that in our lives. But at the same time, we can't just focus on this big ball of negativity. We have to get out of that, because if we stay in that, then that's when our life is perpetually like we just continue to create more of that in our life. And that's not our goal. Our goal is to not stay in that negativity and not have this impossibility and inadequacy constantly in our life. We want to grow. We want to progress. We want to become better. We want to achieve our results. If we never achieve our results, then there's something wrong. We are doing something wrong if we never achieve the results we're working for. So how do you make that switch? How do you get out of that negativity? And that's something I've been thinking about lately. And I know for me, I'm just going to give like literally a few strategies.
Okay, take some notes here, because I got some strategies too. Like these are legit. I want to give you specific like action step strategies to get out of this, get out of the funk. And like when it's time to rebuild, when you fall on your face, you need to get back up and get back in the game. Like write down these strategies, because we're all going to face them. And if you're in a good spot right now and you're like, hey, this is fantastic, this may not seem real relevant, but it's coming.
Sooner or later, right? So one of the things I do, there's a few things I do. One of them is I try to do whatever I can to have some sort of positive thought, even if it's like totally outlandish, like whatever, that would never happen. But what I notice is like, I'm willing to believe any negative worst case scenario thought. Oh my gosh, this happened. That means the world is going to end, right? We're going to end up in the gutter, whatever, worst case scenario. And yet I'm resistant to creating some sort of alternatively unrealistic positive thought, right? And so I'll do that now. I will intentionally come up with some best case scenario that's totally probably not realistic at all, but just doing that seems to switch the energy in me, where now instead of all negative, worst case scenario, this is what's going to happen. I'm like, well, best case scenario, this could happen. They're both unlikely, right? But the one is more positive, and it somehow makes the switch in me where now my body is creating some more positive energy and chemicals. Does that make sense? Like it's crazy, but I felt it happen where something negative will happen, or something happens that's challenging, and my tendency is to just dwell on the negative. But if I can come up with some positive thought, even if it's outlandish, it switches it, and then it allows more positive thoughts to come in. Does that make sense?
I was just saying, can you relate to that? How many of you are quick to believe worst case scenarios? Like something doesn't work out and the mind just starts to play this reel of like, oh, this terrible, terrible, terrible. And we're like, oh, it's all done. It's all over. And the mind will do that to us a lot.
But the thing we need to be aware of is that we're often more likely to believe that than we are to believe some crazy best case scenario happening. And that, I think ultimately that comes down to our philosophy towards life. So if I can start, and I will, if I'm in a real funk, sometimes I'll just start imagining these wild dreams, that are like way out there. But it somehow gives my mind this like permission to think about the positive options that could happen rather than focusing just on the negative ones that I think are more realistic to happen. It's not true. Both are lies. But when we can allow ourselves to entertain both options, both sides, then that's actually the more realistic case. And that's when we can switch the negative energy and the negative thinking. It's just a little thing that helps you make that switch. That's one of them.
Beautiful.
I have another one. But
Cool.
another
Should we take turns?
Sure.
Let's take turns. Okay. Here's what I do when I get totally down and discouraged, you guys, and something doesn't work out like I hoped. I'll work for something. I'll pray for something. I'll go after. I'll be determined about. I'll just go all in, and then it doesn't work like I hoped. It just full on flop. It's easy just to drop and get so discouraged and want to just quit. And you're asking, why do I even try? Why do I do this stuff? Right. Whenever I find myself even slipping into that mentally, I immediately go to a great book, to an inspiring author, like a favorite author, a favorite book, a favorite video, like somebody that I know that I've had as a mentor or something. I'll if I catch myself in that negative funk, I'll beeline for a book or a podcast or an audio, something to just reset that. And just that one thing, even just a few minutes, like James Allen is one of my all-time favorites. Theodore Roosevelt Jr., Brian Tracy, John Maxwell, Brendan Burchard, all these great thinkers, just go right away and I'll just spend a few minutes with them. And it just snaps me out of the mental funk of oh, this is ridiculous. And just a few minutes in a book again. Okay, I got this. I'm back up. And I literally, psychologically, I get up, I dust myself off, and I get back in the game.
I absolutely do the same thing with books and I love it too, because inevitably, it never fails. Whenever I do that, I always read something that just reiterates to me that, oh, this is normal. What you're experiencing is not wrong or abnormal or mean you're failing. This is normal. You're on the path. It always proves that to me. It proves I am on the right path because they experienced it, and everyone who's gone through it has experienced it. This is the path. This is normal. And so I love that, because every time without fail, I get in a book. We like books. You could do videos and stuff too. I think we've been conditioned to not watch videos because without fail, every time we turn on a video, our kids come running. They hear the video and I'm like, I'm trying to have some quiet time here. So I don't do videos. I just pick up a book because nobody comes running when you do that. But without fail, you just hear something or you read something that proves you're on the right path. This is the way. The obstacle is the way, right? Yeah.
You could read that book specifically.
Yeah, you should read that.
That would help.
The Obstacle is the Way by
so
Ryan
good.
Holiday.
Okay, your turn.
Another thing I do is music. I got it. We're letting people in. Music is super powerful. And teens are really good about this, so that's one good thing about having teens is because they love to listen to music, because teens are just filled with energy, and they love to have that positive energy going. And so they'll put music on, but I'll do it for myself. I drive over to our co-working space and I put music on. What's interesting I've found is that music is very powerful for me, but sometimes not always in the way I anticipate. So sometimes I'll put on music to try and pump myself up or get excited. And sometimes I'll find myself crying because it's not just pumping you up. Music has this power to release emotion. And so I might be into the music and I find myself crying and I'm like, this is so stupid. But all it's doing is literally kind of cleansing me in a way. It's letting out the emotion, because that's part of the process. The worst thing we can do is just hold it all in and never let it go. That's why feeling it is important, because you're releasing it. If you just hold on to it, then it literally adds this just more stress and actually prevents you from progressing because you're not releasing the emotion. And so music is just a way of doing that, of helping you to just release the emotion. and like get it out and move, like moving your body too. Like I'll be in the car moving my body, you know, but if you can dance, even that's powerful, because again, you're releasing energy, you're releasing emotion and helping it to flow.
A good, hard, vigorous workout does that same thing. It just releases so
Yes.
much. I didn't know that about you, babe.
Yeah, you
And the
didn't know
driving
that?
in the car doing the music thing. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
There's
Cool.
lots you don't know about me. Just
What?
kidding. I don't know.
Okay.
Seemed like a thing to say.
Love this.
Cliche thing to say.
Okay, my last one. So hopefully you guys, I hope you're writing down. These are like legitimate strategies that we've learned about over years and years of study, and people use stuff. Here's another one that I think is
Well, I mean, we
super important,
legitimately use.
and we use a
we're
lot.
using these daily and weekly because we are human beings, and we are also, you know, we have ups and downs, we have struggles and triumphs, and that's just life. It's just part of it. And that's the thing. Like, I guess maybe. Sorry, I'm gonna go off.
Back
again.
to Rachel.
Back to me. I will keep talking. No, I guess I used to think that there would. Maybe I didn't really think this. Maybe I just never really thought about it. But that there would be this moment in time or in your life when you have arrived, and so now everything is easy, and you never have problems again because you figured everything out. Like, that doesn't exist, and it never will. So the truth about life is that we'll continue to have the humps and the walls and the struggles and the feeling it's impossible. Like, because if you're growing, that should be normal. If we never felt like anything was impossible, then that means there's nothing else in life worth achieving. Right? There's always another level. There's always something else. There's always a new mountaintop to climb.
Yep, that was always another adventure. I actually heard Russell Brunson say recently, he said, I was convinced that once I was making millions of dollars that my life would be so much easier. And he said, it's actually way, way harder. He says that we're doing $100 million a year and my life is harder now than it's ever been. He said it gets harder, so don't be deceived. And most were like, what? No. So the challenge is there, but you grow with it and you become better.
Because it's just different types of challenges. And that's the thing. We think the challenges we have now are the worst or whatever, but you'll continue to have challenges. They'll just look different.
Yep. Okay, last strategy.
And so you have to decide if that's the exchange rate, right? Right.
Last strategy. You guys ready? I want you to get a little file or a folder or a box or something where you keep kind notes or things people have said about you. What's the movie? Is it It's a Wonderful Life? Is the movie where he's just like, oh, if I just died, people would be better, right? Is it a little Christmas movie, the old Christmas movie?
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. So he finds out through his death experience, he finds out how needed he is and how better his family is and his life is, his community is, because he's there. And sometimes we like to get in this funk mentally where we're just like, oh, I'm nobody, I'm not making any difference, I'm not doing any good. So I literally want you to have this file or this box or this space where you have kind notes from people. And you might even, this is going to sound so weird, but I actually heard somebody teach this. He actually said, I want you to go and ask your friends and your family to write notes to you about things. Can you, and just say, hey guys, I'm just doing some, I'm just collecting some things, just thinking about life. And I was just collecting some stuff. Would you mind just taking a quick minute and shooting me a message of a time that I've influenced you in some way, I've had any kind of influence in your life? And gather those things, collect them, right? Now, I've been mentoring for years and years and years. And whenever I received a kind note from a student or something, or from somebody I coached or mentored, like they'll shoot me a message, and I get them every week now. It's just, it's part of the growing circle of influence, and I keep them because that's the payday. That's the pay. When somebody writes you a note and like, hey, a couple years ago you said something, it totally changed my life. And I thought that person wasn't even listening. They were just like staring at the wall. And they're like, you said something that totally changed my life. And I had this experience, and it like, thank you. That's payday for me. And so I have a file of those. And literally when I'm feeling in a funk, where I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I'm so inadequate. What am I doing? I'll read some of those. And it immediately snaps me out of it. Say, okay, at least I'm helping one person. At least I made a difference. And it literally snaps you out of that funk of feeling so inadequate and feeling like you're a total failure at everything.
You can also, even if people just say things to you or your kids say things to you, just write it down, you know. My daughter said I'm the best mom in the world. Oh, what did Sage say yesterday? It was so funny. She's 5. She's seriously so hilarious, so precocious, and so funny. And she was like, Mom, you're the nicest mean mom in the world.
Oh,
I was like, thanks. I don't know
awesome.
where that came from or why.
that is Sage.
But almost, yeah. But she's just so loving. Like every day, she's just, I love you're the best mom. You're the best dad in the world. You know, it's just so cute. So write those things down. Like remind yourself. And if that's the positive thought you have to grab onto when you're feeling like, you know, it's impossible, then do that. Read through those. I just have one more strategy. I have over here hanging on my closet next to my vision board this accomplishments list. I sat down one time. It was from a mentor I had. They gave this idea, and I sat down and I typed out this whole list of my accomplishments. Anything I could think of that I counted as some sort of accomplishment, including, you know, having babies and whatever.
That's easy.
Oh yeah, so easy. Just anything and everything I could think of, I just wrote down, you know, traveling with my family to 35 countries. That's an accomplishment, you know? So I wrote down all these things that were my accomplishments, and I hang them up there and look at it sometimes. Just having those reminders around helps you
that you're doing something and you're going somewhere.
You have, because we're too quick to stack up the evidence against ourselves of why we're failing. And again, while it is important to recognize that, because we can't be like, oh, I'm awesome, I can do anything, you know, when the reality is you don't have the skills yet to do some things. Like, it's important to recognize that. But on the other hand, we can't beat ourselves up about it day after day after day. We have to recognize and move on and be like, okay, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to make something of myself.
Wow, isn't this stuff awesome? I love this stuff. And sorry, you guys got way more than you bargained for, huh? You get a whole bunch of it. I got one more thing I want to share from notes that I took last week. Sometimes this is okay, now we're going advanced level here. This is next level of this discussion. You guys ready? We ready to level up here? We have to be able to separate being a good person from our own incompetencies. Does that make sense? So like, well, let me frame it up this way. You guys, I can't golf at all. Okay. I can't do it. I can't even, I've never even tried. So I know I can't do it. Miniature golf even. Like, I can't golf at all. Does that make me a bad person? And I don't think any of you would be like, yeah, you're terrible. Your life's not worth living, right? Because I'm completely incompetent at golf. Okay, well, what about, give me some other stuff. What about anything else?
What if you're completely incompetent at parenting?
Okay, there you go.
A bad person?
Yeah, so what if I'm incompetent at parenting? What if I lack parenting skills? And I do. Let's just be honest right here for a moment. I do. So does lacking parenting skills make me a bad person? Like, honestly, I'm asking, and you guys can say yes if you want. but I don't think any of you would. I don't think any of you would say, well, no, if you're not good at parenting, that doesn't make you a bad person. You just need to work on your parenting skills. And we have to be able to segregate that in our minds. Like, we have to separate my own self-worth and my value as being a good person and my skill set in a certain area.
And unfortunately, I think that's where part of the problem is because people do connect it.
They totally do. And they create so many problems.
I'm not good at parenting. I'm not good at my marriage. I'm not good at this. And so I'm a bad person, when that's not really the case. They don't recognize is what all of those things are skills that you can learn. That's part of the problem. In fact,
Uh-oh. She's pounding the pulpit, people. We're about to get some preaching.
Greg and I right now, like, we're going on this thing, this preaching mission about education, because this is one of the things, like, we don't do this in education. We're not teaching this to our children. We're like, study math and history and science and blah, 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 and get good grades. We're saying all of that. What about learning how to do these things? What about learning how to talk to yourself? What about learning how to manage, like, your emotions and your mind, and then learning these skills? We don't teach any skills for finance or parenting or marriage or any of those things. None of these skills are being taught. It's almost like we just expect that we're going to know how to do it. And we don't. And then we're like, well, I'm a bad person because I don't know how to do that. No, you were never taught. None of us were ever taught these things effectively.
Ooh, I love when she gets fired up.
On that note, yes. Are you guys planning a course for kids?
Yes.
They're actually open now for enrollment. Greg is doing classes
I'm
for
building
the
out.
teens.
I'm
for
going
our
crazy.
Teens. Because again, pretty much all of these things we do, we're like, okay, what do our kids need? Let's make that. And then we're like, well, let's invite other people. And that's why we do our trips that we do for teens. He's going to Mongolia in July. I forgot the month for a second.
Let me throw this out there.
And we're doing the classes.
We are literally in the middle of a failure to launch epidemic.
Like, we didn't come up with this. This was on psychology.com. Failure to launch epidemic in youth.
And they, like, some youth are trying to go on a mission. They're trying to go to college. They're trying to go to work. They're getting married, and they're failing. Like, we just as a whole generation, we have failed to prepare this generation to succeed as adults. And they're staying at home, or they're coming back home. They said, Rachel was reading on the psychology site, like the college counselors are just overrun.
They can't even handle
it.
The demand for mental health for college students, because there's so much need. The kids are getting to college and just like, help, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I want to kill myself.
And they're quitting jobs, they're leaving college, all this, and they're saying, you know what they're saying to people? They're like, well, why'd you leave? Why'd you quit? What happened? It's too hard. I can't handle it. It's hard. And so we literally have this entire generation of youth that have not been prepared adequately to succeed as adults. It's literally a massive failure to launch epidemic. And I'm going to do my part to curb this stuff. And I see it happening. I see it with youth, and I'm preparing them. And these youth that I've been mentoring for years, they're out there rocking it. And you know what they're doing? They're calling me, and they're emailing me like, man, everything you taught me prepared me for this, but I'm surrounded by people that have no idea how to handle life. They've never been educated for life.
Well, and I think the amazing benefit we've had is that Greg had a hard teenage years. That didn't make sense, but he had a hard growing up experience, and it made him tough. And so that's been like one of our educational goals from the beginning with our kids, was this whole idea of, okay, academics are important, but more important is they need to be mentally and emotionally tough. And so we've really focused on that with our kids from the beginning. And obviously our kids aren't launching yet, but I feel that they're more prepared than we're seeing.
Kaya's having a launch experience right now.
Right.
She's by herself taking care of kids internationally, like a babysitting gig solo in another country. And she's like, I got this.
Yeah.
And how do you ask, how do you do it with young kids? Like,
I
it
think,
starts.
Okay.
Like
I just had an idea. We're going to do this. This is great. We are going to do a parenting class for parents with younger kids. So he's doing classes for the youth
specifically for them.
When they're teens, they literally just need it, and they need to hear it from someone else,
because they don't want to hear it from you.
That's part of growing up. Well, it's just natural. They're getting ready to leave the nest, and so they're naturally like going to be like, whatever, mom and dad, and they're going to be looking outside for somebody else. So they need a mentor that's going to tell them, hey, this is how you do life. And then they listen, because it's not mom and dad. So teens, they just need that. But yeah, I think for the younger kids, that's a parenting class.
Which we already have scheduled, you guys.
We do actually have it scheduled, and that's what we'll cover. So yeah, I like that.
Yep.
That's definitely what we're gonna do, is teaching how to teach this to the younger kids, because we've been doing this from the beginning with our kids.
I start with them usually when they're about 3 or 4. Literally, they start doing things when they're 3 or 4.
Just how
training
to think
them
and how to process things, and how to, even the little things, like if they fall down and get hurt, or if they,
or you're on a walk, you're on a family walk, and they're like, my legs are tired, and they scream, you want to be held.
It literally comes down to all those little things. And then I think what we'll do, we should take notes, because we'll go through the growth versus fixed mindset book by Carol Dweck, because every parent needs to know that. Like that, if parents read that book and applied it, we wouldn't be having these problems that these teens and young adults are having.
Well, you know what the psychologist said? I read this report. It said parents are, stunting their children emotionally. Parents are stunting their children emotionally. It's a huge problem. It's a really big problem. The name of the book is called Mindset by Carol Dweck. One of my all-time favorite books. Every parent should read that book.
But it just basically goes through this idea of teaching. And she said, every parent does it automatically, whether you are aware of it or not. You are doing it. You're either passing on a fixed mindset or a growth mindset to your children in every way. The way you praise them, the way you talk to them, the way you teach them about failure and making mistakes, and anything else in life, falling down and getting hurt. Like the way you talk to them about how they got hurt, you're either passing on a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. A growth mindset means they'll be able to handle anxiety and stress and hard things. And a fixed mindset means they will not.
They're going to acquiesce to it. It'll crush them.
So yeah, that's the parenting class.
It's coming, peeps, because it's so needed and so exciting.
Very needed.
The anxiety thing is, like, in the last 6 years, I've seen anxiety just go off the charts. It's devastating. It's crushing people. And again, no judgment here. I'm like, I have so much empathy and I just want to help.
Well, again, no judgment, because part of the problem is that
they don't know.
We as parents nowadays don't know, because we weren't taught effectively. We're basically just modeling our parents and either doing what they did or not doing what they did because we didn't like what they did. I mean, that's most of our strategy.
Yep. How about that for a twist? Whoa, I didn't see that coming. Whoa, this stuff is awesome. Okay. Oh, good question. Anybody else have a question? So you guys remember last time we promised that we would go through the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and do a series on that. And again, this stuff fits, so don't think it doesn't fit. But I want to touch on that. If there's other questions or you want to go deeper on this topic, we are happy to roll with it. But if not, then we'll touch on now the Maslow's and how this fits in our conversation.
And I did say we were going to talk about the 28-day challenge winners.
Oh, yeah.
We can't, the end of the month there was when Greg was sick. And
guys, I was deathly ill, like fever and chills and like hallucinations. And like I had a kidney infection. So it made your whole body like infected. In 4 days, I ate one kind of small meal and like it was bad. I'm so grateful to be alive and healthy and well. Like, oh man, I was taking some things for granted. Janet, you guys are moving to the DR, right? Oh, every time I look at you, I'm like, oh, the DR. I love it there so much. Oh, I'm jealous. I love that country. Our friends were just there too. And oh man, I love it. Okay. So if there's not any other questions, then I'm going to screen share real quick and we'll dive into Maslow just for a little bit here. So here's Maslow's hierarchy of need. And he talked about how, like, in order to become your very best self, and this applies to you and your children, of course, in order to become your very best self, which is the top tier, the blue one, the desire to become the most that one can be, he calls it self-actualization, which basically translated is like you're actually maximizing on your potential. You're becoming who you're capable of becoming, which you guys, let's just be totally honest and blunt about that. Like very few of us will ever even get close to that. Trying to wrap your mind around what is possible for a human being. I mean, think about it. If you spent your entire life working on your strengths, not your weaknesses, if you spent your entire life working on your strengths and what you're good at, like what's possible? What could you achieve? What could you accomplish? What could you do? Who could you become? Mind-boggling. It's so awesome. So the ultimate goal is to become your very best self. But he walked back through it in studying psychology and human behavior for years and years and years. He created this pyramid, and he went in order. He's like, well, actually, there's certain things that have to happen in order. That they have to, one after the other, they have to happen in order for a person to actually even get there. And if it doesn't happen, then you can't achieve your full potential. And so he started with the most basic needs, the physiological needs, the needs of the body: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, right? We have to have those things. Those basic bodily needs have to be met, or we're never moving forward. But here's where this gets so fun, and people mistakenly think about this. They look at that first list and they're like, okay, I have air, I have water, I have food, I have shelter, I have sleep, clothing, good.
I have reproduction.
And I have reproduction. Got to have that too. You think there and you think, I'm good, and you think you can move to the next level, but that's not the case. Because the quality of your food, for example,
well, even the quality of your air and your
breathing. Quality of your air and your breathing strategies. We went over breathing strategies, right? Before. The quality of your water. The quality of your food is literally affecting every level. And so these little white lines in between each pyramid here are like a ceiling. And if you're not rocking it at that level, you hit the ceiling and it stops your upward momentum and progress.
Well, and I would say, I think there is some crossover. Like you could maybe be rocking it in your employment or your health, but still maybe your shelter or your sleep or something is out of whack. Like I think there is some crossover.
Yep.
Ultimately, though, I would say that it's keeping you from fully progressing,
maximizing,
because it's almost like it's this anchor holding you back. Does that make sense? I'm going to relate it in this little way because I just thought about it. I was on Facebook and I was in this Facebook group, and this woman was like, what do I do? Like, I have this child. I think the child was maybe like 6 or 8. And they're like, they have these like major emotional breakdowns where they are literally just like screaming and crying and like emotionally beating themselves up of like, I'm this terrible person. And I'm reading this, like my little heart is breaking. And she was basically asking this group, like, well, what do I do? You know, I tell them they're a great kid and I praise them and all these things. And what came to my mind, which I just realized now, was the hierarchy of needs, though I didn't really get that clearly at the time. But now I'm like, this is what came to my mind. You need, what I would do if that was me, and what I would say to her is that you need to go through this whole pyramid and analyze everything for this kid, because there's some cause. Like these things don't happen just because they happen. Something is causing it, and you literally need to go through every one of these levels and figure out, is it the air?
So, but let me pause. Let me pause here. So this child she's talking about is having a big problem with esteem. They have no self-esteem and no recognition. Okay.
Probably.
Struggling with love and belonging in relationships. I was dealing with some clients recently, same thing. 12-year-old daughter is like getting a knife and threatening to take her own life, to cut herself, and screaming and yelling at the kids. And I mean, there's all these issues that are happening, right? And so you're struggling with love and belonging, but then you come back, you're like, whoa, they're totally struggling with safety needs, personal security, and health and property. And then you come back and you're like, my very first thing, and because I've been doing this for so long, very first thing I think of when parents come to me and they say their kids having serious emotional issues, my number one thought is food. There's almost, not always, but there's almost always some kind of related connection when they're having behavioral problems to the food they're eating. And it has been amazing.
It could be a lack of nutrients, maybe.
Or an allergy, or just unhealthy food. They're just not getting it. And literally, I've seen this again and again and again. They literally make a shift in the diet, and all of a sudden, all the behavioral issues go away because of what the kid was eating.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing here. We look at this and we're like, okay, this child is clearly dealing with esteem issues and love and belonging. But if we focus on trying to fix the esteem and the love and belonging by saying, oh yeah, you're lawnmower, you're worthy, we love you, like all of these things, like really that's not the problem, because it's the lower levels, the foundational levels of the pyramid that are preventing the love and belonging and the esteem from being strong and powerful. So you have to go backwards. You have to look. And that's what I was saying. I'm like, you need to literally look at everything. Food, water, shelter, maybe the way
Sleep.
your house is set up. Maybe it's too messy. Maybe it's like, there's everything you need to look at. Maybe they're not feeling a sense of security because of something that's happening in your life, or like there's so many of these little things that are affecting all the other levels of the pyramid.
Whoa. So you guys, huge aha here. Like every problem that we're having is created by the lower tier, the tiers below it. Does that make sense? And it's like Henry David Thoreau said one time. He said, for every one person that's going to the root of a problem, there's 1,000 people hacking at the branches. Yeah. And we do that. We look at the problem, we only think around the context of that problem. So we hack at the branches like crazy, saying, oh, what's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem? When really the cause of the problem seems unrelated, but it's from a lower tier.
Well, and that's a lot of the problem with all, parenting books or parenting tips and all these things out there. It's like, hey, my kid's having a tantrum. What do I do? What are the tips for dealing with this tantrum? And that doesn't work, because you're trying to manage the symptom without dealing with or addressing the cause. The cause is all these other things on the pyramid. The symptom is just what's happening. It's the behavior. It's the acting out. And that's not what you need to be worried about. That will resolve itself when you fix these other levels of the pyramid. You don't have to worry about, and that's the thing, when people ask us about, tips on stuff like that, how do you deal with tantrums and stuff? I'm like, well, they take care of themselves if you're taking care of the needs in the pyramid. Tantrums are rare because we're focusing on fulfilling the needs in the pyramid. And when those needs are met, then you don't have the behavioral issues.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So,
oh, I love this stuff. And like, so in my podcast, so I have a podcast called the School of Awesome Sauce Podcast. I'm in the middle of a series right now going through this really thoroughly and well. And we don't have time today to go through this. But I want you to look at, and I promise you will be blown away at the effect that food, the quality of your food, your shelter,
breathing,
breathing, making sure you're getting oxygen enough, the quality of your shelter. And shelter, like every space has an energy. And a lot of our houses are getting really cluttered, and we're living like hoarders. we have just too much stuff. Yeah, ourselves included. We're in this small apartment right now we're renting, and luckily we're out of this place this month. Yes.
Well, yeah.
Man, can't wait to get out here.
We have a whole story around that.
But it's fun. We're back to the adventures, friends. We're back on the road.
Well,
so like if your house is cluttered and disorganized, you feel it, don't you? I know you moms do. But guess what? Your kids feel it too. But they wouldn't come up to
They
you
can't
and say,
articulate that.
they wouldn't come up and say, Mom, I'm feeling a little flustered because the closet's disorganized and my room's a little messy. They don't do that. They don't know how to articulate it. And so
Well,
they're
not
acting
aware
out.
of it.
They act chaotically and they're just like, rah! And you're like, what's up? And they feel it, you feel it, but you don't go, you know what? Like, we need to clear out some clutter. We need to get rid of some things. And we need to free up space and get our house where it feels right again. Okay. Part of the shelter thing is media. Like, if we have this unending stream of video games and TV and media, music.
I want to say, well, yeah, you're right. I didn't mean to interrupt that. That's very true, because that's part of the environment of your shelter is part of that. One of our early on mentors, she said one thing that she does, and I still put it on my calendar, is every 6 months she does a purge of her house. And she literally goes through the house. Now, a lot of times I don't have to do that because we move every 6 months. So that's my purge, which is what's happening again. I just told Greg right before this meeting, I'm like, oh, look, my 6-month purge is scheduled for June 1st. And that's when we're leaving and moving. We're going to Texas for a little bit.
So you manifested that.
I know I did.
Oh, yeah.
We told you guys before we're moving to Georgia. Did we tell you that? Yeah. So that whole thing fell through. And we still may move to Georgia, but it's going to be pushed back. And so we're actually going to Texas to do some house sitting for some of our really good friends. And anyways, yeah, that's a whole nother story. So we're going to Texas now, but doing a 6-month purge, like literally you should every 6 months at least, especially if you're not nomadic, go through your house and like clean it out, get the clutter. Like, it's like we always joke, it's like barnacles, you know, you got to get the barnacles off. And like just free up some space and energy and everything. And
part of that is your clothing. That's another one on that base level, is the clothing. Like, do your clothes make you feel successful?
Well, like Marie Kondo says, you know, if you've watched her stuff or read her book, you know, does it spark joy? And I love what she said in one of the early episodes, like, when you hold your piece of clothing, it should make you feel like when you're holding a puppy. You know? You should feel as excited about your clothes as you do about holding a little puppy.
And so if you've got a whole drawer full of just junk clothes you've been holding on to for just in case or whatever, donate those things, man. There are people in the world that don't have enough clothes.
And again, this whole idea of, well, how does that really relate or help with my safety needs or my love of belonging or my self-esteem? But that's the crazy thing. Like, it is. It's all connected. It's holistic. It's all interrelated. And when we start to do and make little changes like this, it's amazing, like how it just helps other parts of our life to flow and to kind of come together.
And specifically on that note, you'll find if you have stuff that's cluttered, you'll also feel cluttered and clogged up emotionally.
I know that
and literally
very true.
Getting rid of things helps you get rid of emotional blockage. I know this sounds crazy. You guys are like, this is weird, Dennings, but this stuff is real. It works. This is based on decades and decades of research in psychology and human performance that we've been studying for years, and we've been helping people with this. It just plain works. And so right now we're starting at the very base level. So just today, I want you to choose something. Choose something from this lowest level.
Physiological.
The physiological level. Maybe it's your water or your breathing or your food, quality of food. Or maybe you're under eating or overeating, or it's just too much junk food, too sugar. Yeah, sleep. Well, now I know you're all undersleeping, especially Jess right now is undersleeping, and it's our fault. Sorry, Jess. Sleep in today.
Fiona has a baby, so she's probably undersleeping.
Right. Eve, she's under her daughter's name. Eve. Sorry, we keep doing that. We see Fiona every time. It's like, oh.
I know.
But yeah, hashtag worth it. Thanks, Jess. And for the kids too, it's worth it. But like, try to get quality sleep. If you can't get quantity, at least get quality. Like, sleep well. And then in clothing and reproduction, I'll throw this in there. Just have wonderful sex with your spouse.
No,
that
but that's
helps.
not,
Okay, that's the next one. I thought I'd throw that in there. I had to throw that in there. I had to.
Intimacy.
All right, it's up there too.
Belonging.
But you gotta like reproduce.
Reproduction is very basic, and you know, this could be a very Whether
We'll get to that.
I'm just gonna say it. I think it is a very basic need. You know, I think everyone in this group has kids, so you know we don't have to do the kid versus no kid discussion. You know, my sister has no kids, and my mom's sister has no kids. She's now in her 60s, and she's saying, I wish I did. I wish I had kids. I wish I had some. So again, that's my interpretation of what that's really to. It's not about sex. It's about literally reproducing.
But sex reproduces. I'm playing. I'm joking here. I gotta throw that plug in there for awesome. Okay, you guys are the best. I hope you found just some elements here, and maybe you've had some sparks, some insights of things we didn't even say, but you're just like, that's it. Mm-hmm. And so just take little actions this week. Okay. So from now until the next time we meet, just pick one thing. And what's your one thing? Because it's easy to feel overwhelmed. It's easy to feel like you're failing. It's easy to feel like why does this even matter? Just pick one thing that you know you need to do and just start going after it.
Because that is the hard thing. I'm rereading this book again. I started last night. Like, this is his point in this book, Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Really great book. We've given you enough books you should read. The things that make a big difference in our life are really easy, simple things. But they're also easy things to not do. They're easy to do, and they're easy to not do. It's easy, easy to get up and do your morning routine. It's also easy to not do it. It's not like your morning routine is, you have to go climb out Mount Everest or something. Like, that's not the morning routine. It's really easy things, but it's also easy to not do them. But that's what like the Slight Edge is about. It's like you're either incrementally making these little decisions daily that are going to like lead to failure, or you're making these incremental, small, seemingly insignificant decisions daily that lead to success. And that's really what it's about, connected with this whole pyramid, like in all those little areas and everything. Like it's all working together. It's all building upon each other.
Oh, I love this stuff. I love it. Okay, you guys, you're the best. Keep the questions coming. Keep rocking it. Keep loving your spouse. Keep loving your kids. Keep loving yourself. Some of you need some serious self-care time. Do that. Some of you just need some spouse care time. Do that. Some of your kids need some help. Do whatever it is. Just whatever your thing is. Just pick one thing and do it this week. And little things, bit by bit, you guys make a gigantic difference in the quality of our lives. Isn't that exciting? That ultimately the quality and the final outcome of our lives, whether we lived a mediocre, humdrum existence or a spectacular, epic life, are just these little decisions we make each day to be alive and to live deliberately and intentionally instead of just by default. So whatever you do, don't let life happen to you today. Make it happen and do awesome things. Okay? Love you guys. You're the best. You're the best group of people. I hope all of us can get together and on adventures together, you guys. I'm not kidding. We're gonna host retreats. We're gonna do couples retreats. We're gonna do families retreats. We're gonna do trips. We're gonna do something epic in Australia and New Zealand and Mongolia in July. And we're gonna climb Mount Kilimanjaro together. Eve, I want to see you packing a baby up Kilimanjaro. That would be awesome. But we're gonna get together and do super cool things. That was a joke. What? No, I carry. Yes. You can carry kids up mountains, man. I've done it. I carried a 13-year-old up a mountain.
That's different.
All right, it's different. All right, love you guys so much. You're the best. Keep rocking it, okay? Oh, she's in. Yes. Yes. All right. And she even typed that one-handed, I think. That was impressive.
See?
All right. You guys are the best. Love you so much. Have a wonderful week. Oh, you got a kid up. Sorry, Jez, if I woke him up being too loud. Whoa, 3 a.m. Okay. Love you guys. You're the best. Have an epic day. Reach upward.